I have a message for our military. Be ready. I've called the armed forces to alert, and there is a reason. The hour is coming when America will act, and you will make us proud.
At 8:46 on the morning of September 11th, 2001, the world would forever be changed, and America would forever be altered. A wave of patriotism swept across our country, and the drumbeat of war was heard from our nation's heartland to countries a half a world away. With a war on terror declared, a nation would find itself in an uphill battle that would eventually lead to the destruction of civil liberties and the establishment of a military driven to conflicts based upon political lies and fraudulent official reports. We now begin our investigation into the events of September 11th. What were you told happened that day?
There are some very anguish-ridden people in the world, and they decided to attack us.
2 planes were hijacked by terrorists, and they were crashed into the World Trade Center.
2 planes flew into 2 skyscrapers and destroyed them.
Part of the building was just smashed in and had been burnt, and just chaos.
From all the film footage that I've seen in the past 6 years, there was 2 commuter jets.
My initial reaction to September the 11th was that it was as advertised, that these aircraft had been hijacked, that it was a big terrorist operation, that we were attacked by Muslim extremists. I kind of just believed the initial story. Was in a state of shock. As reports came out through the news and some alternative news sources that I had been subscribing to, there were some things that were reported by credible people at these accident sites that did not agree with my professional training and my background.
Very strong. Boom! An explosion so hard that pushed us upwards.
He was the last guy pulled out. He was on sub-level 2, and he heard a bomb. And he was omitted from the 9/11 report.
I've looked at various hypotheses about what might have happened with the plane hits on the World Trade Center, and frankly, I haven't come to a firm conclusion. I do think that some of the pod images are suggestive of the possibility of a plane switch. I'm not convinced that that's the case, however.
There was definitely a blue logo. It was like a circular logo on the front of the plane, definitely towards the front. It definitely did not look like a commercial plane.
The plane wasn't no airline or anything. It was a twin-engine, big gray plane.
When I first saw the appendage on Flight 175, this extra piece of equipment, I was looking at the Evan Fairbanks footage, which is kind of bluish, and it's from the underneath. It's off-centered on the fuselage. It's between the engines. It casts its own shadow. It has its own reflection. And when I saw this, I thought somebody's had to have photoshopped this, and I wanted to get other sources to make sure that it wasn't just a product of Photoshop. It was in all the CNN footage when you took their videos and did freeze frames. It was definitely a three-dimensional piece of equipment. It definitely has nothing to do with Photoshop, and it shouldn't be there.
Anybody can see the other piece of equipment right there in the center line on the starboard side of that fuselage. It can't be anything other than an external piece of equipment.
Looking for more video evidence, right after compiling a lot of the photographs and a lot of video regarding Flight 175, and there's some CNN footage that shows the whole side of the plane lighting up. And just as the aircraft is penetrating the World Trade Center, there's this bright anomalous event. It's like an orange flash, off to the right of the fuselage.
The bottom of that aircraft was exposed so that there was a large flash just prior to impact with the building. There was a large flash, so large that it lit up the side of the fuselage of that aircraft. It wasn't just a small spark.
There's been some discussion of just exactly what produced this flash. Some of the scenarios have been talked about have been reflection, or sparks, or static discharge, or possibly an incendiary attached to the aircraft. This flash is produced in the shadow of the wing, so I don't think it could have been a reflection. As far as the possibility of sparks during penetration, the radome of the aircraft is a composite material. It's not metal per se. The wings are metal. They didn't produce sparks as they penetrated. So I don't believe they were sparks. As far as the static discharge, the 767, all aircraft have attached to the airframe what's called static wicks that are there to dissipate any static charges that could be produced on an aircraft in flight. In all my years of flying, the only time an aircraft has been statically charged is when you're flying for extended periods in precipitation. September the 11th was a perfectly clear early fall day without any clouds in the sky, so I don't think these aircraft would have been statically charged by precipitation. And the other item, or possible explanation, would have been an incendiary. And I do believe that this is what the source of the flash was. This flash is produced right in line where the pod was attached. Look at the footage in very slow motion. You can step through the footage with your pause still button on a DVD, and as this aircraft penetrates, you see the enlarged, torn area, facade where this pod was attached. All this evidence indicates to me that it was not a reflection or sparks or static discharge, but I think it was an incendiary that was associated with the pod that was attached.
Well, the pod could have been a number of things. It could have been even a missile attached. It could have been some kind of explosive attached. But whatever it was, it didn't belong there on a commercial flight.
This is a rocket pod. We primarily use these to shoot 2.75-inch unguided rockets. On the A-10, the primary role that we use these rockets for is forward air control. We shoot white phosphorus rockets that contain a phosphorus spotting charge. A very brilliant white cloud of smoke comes up when the rocket hits.
American Flight 11 was the flight that hit the North Tower, the first tower that was hit. And as far as we know, it was recorded by just one source, and that was the Nade brothers, who were producing a documentary video about New York firefighters. They happened to be in a position to catch American Flight 11 as it overflew New York City and flew into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. Again, as you look at this footage, slow it down just a little bit, you can see this a big flash before this airplane even hits the North Tower. And I would say quite probably that it was also an incendiary that caused that flash.
Pods under the plane suggesting they might be some sort of military plane, and flashes suggesting that they might be igniting large fireballs for spectacular television effect. Personally, I'm not convinced that that's true, but I'm also I'm not convinced that we need to dismiss that hypothesis. I've looked at these images, and some of the pod images, I think, they don't look to me like just optical illusions like the people who've debunked this claim.
Did the pod have anything to do with the flash? I can't answer it, but I can say this. The pod you will not find, or an external piece of equipment that large, you will not find on the belly or attached anywhere on the external part of a Part 121 scheduled airliner in the United States. It just won't happen. All that does is tell me that airplane was not the airplane that the government said it was.
I have looked at the films of the plane hitting the South Tower, and I have seen the slowed down version. And it is obvious to me that on more than 2 or 3 of these films, there is a flash of some sort that takes place just as these planes are about to smack into the buildings. I cannot tell you what that is, but I can tell you what it's not. It's not a box cutter.
Indeed, the flash couldn't have been the result of a box cutter. So if the flash was the result of an incendiary device, how does that fit into a terrorist hijacking scenario at all? And if, as Colonel Nelson has proposed, there was extra equipment attached to the belly of the plane that hit the South Tower, how could that have been United Airlines Flight 175 or any other commercial airliner for that matter? Keep in mind that these planes disappeared for nearly a half an hour, surely enough time to substitute a drone in place of commercial aircraft, as was proposed in the 1962 Northwoods document.
One of the scenarios in Operation Northwoods was to take a regularly scheduled commercial airliner and take a similar type plane, paint the tail numbers up to resemble that of the commercial airliner, fly it by remote control out over the Caribbean, and by remote control blow it up after sending a tape recorded message saying, "Help, we're being attacked by Cuban MiGs." This was in 1962. I think we had a very sophisticated, more modern version of that plan happen on September the 11th, 2001.
Tell you I'm okay, all right? Here, hold on. You want to call your mother or something?
The way those buildings were constructed, the supporting members essentially melted. And once that occurred, then the buildings started to come down like pancaking with more and more weight being put on each lower floor, so then the whole building came down.
Structural damage to the buildings is what I heard on television.
There's never been a modern steel concrete building that's ever collapsed due to fire, not before and not after.
My testimony was very upsetting for the commission for the simple reason that, number one, I talk about explosions in the building, initial explosions before the plane hit the building. I spoke about seeing one of the hijackers, alleged hijackers, 3 months before 9/11. I told them that I had told the FBI this information, and I kept quiet for.
Is it possible that WABC and other network affiliates were working from a script on the morning of September 11th, 2001? Let's take a look at some of the other video clips from other media outlets. And these were shot as the events unfolded that morning, long before any scripts could have been handed out.
Tell me where you were, what happened, what did you see, what did you hear?
First I went on Canal Street, I saw the fire. I saw the 2 buildings. I think it was a bomb because 2 of them.
Again, there has been a second explosion here in